Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to the another exciting Wednesday program live from ISKCON of Silicon Valley. And tonight, we will discuss from the Bhagavad Gita. Before that, we will do some prayers and songs. One of the famous song we will do is Sad Goswami Ashtakam, is written by Srinivas Acharya, who was the who was comes in disciplic succession emanating from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he has beautifully described the six Goswamis of Vrindavan, who were the direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how they taken forward the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So let's chant together the Sad Goswami Ashtakam. I am going to share my screen so all of you can follow. Let me. Okay. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Paro Premamritam Nidhi Dhira Dhira Jana Priya Priya Karo Nirmatsara Pujita Shri Chaitanya Kripa Bhara Bhuvi Bhuva Tarako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Shri Jiva Gopalako Nana Sastra Vicharine Kanipuna Sadharma Samsapako Lokanam Hitakarino Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nande Namattaliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Shri Jiva Gopalako Shri Gauranga Gunanuvarnana Vidho Shraddha Samriddhyanvito Papotapanikrintana Tanubhrita Govinda Ganamrite Anandambudhivardhane Kanipuno Kaivalyanistarako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Shri Jiva Gopalako Yatva Turnamashesha Mandalapati Prenim Sada Tuchava Bhutva Dina Ganesha Karunaya Kapina Kantha Gopi Bhavara Samritad Bilahari Kallala Magnod Muhu Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Sri Jiva Gopalaka Pujat Kokila Hamsa Saras Gana Kene Mayura Kule Nana Ratna Nibadha Mula Vitapa Shri Yukta Vrindavane Radha Krishna Maharnisham Prabhajata Jivartha Daya Mudha Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Shri Jiva Gopalako Sankhya Purvak Nama Gana Natabhi Kalavasani Krita Nitrahara Vihara Kadi Vijita Chatyanta Dino Chayo Radha Krishna Guna Smritir Madhurima Nandena Sammohita Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyuga Sri Jiva Gopalaka Radha Kunda Tate Kalenda Tanaya Tere Chabam Sivate प्रेमोन्मादवशाद शेषदशया ग्रस्त प्रमत्त सदा गायन्त च कदा हरेर्गुणवरम् भावाभिभूतमुदा वन्दे रूपसनातन रघुयुगो श्रीजीवगोपालको हे राधे व्रज देवी के चललिते हे नंद सुनो कुतः श्री गोवर्धन कल्प पाद पतले कालिंदिवने कुतः भूसंताविति सर्वता व्रजपुरे हे धर्महाविह्वलो वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको वन्दे रूप सनातन रघुयुगो श्रीजीव गोपालको हरे कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, everyone. For yeah, because of the Zoom, we can't able to sing together. So I hope all of you chanted behind the muted mic. So this is a very famous prayer, and let's just read the translation. The six Goswamis are always engaged in loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They are just like the ocean of love of God, and they are popular both with the gentle and with the ruffians, because they are not envious of anyone. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone, and they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Thus, they are engaged in missionary activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatan Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jeev Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami. The six Goswamis are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principle for the benefit of all human beings. Thus, they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Sri Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis are very much enriched in understanding of Lord Chaitanya and who are thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. They can purify all conditioned souls from the reactions of their sinful activities by pouring upon them transcendental song about Govinda. The six Goswamis, as such, they are very expert in increasing the limit of the ocean of transcendental bliss, and they are the savior of the living entities from the devouring mouth of liberation. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis kicked off all association of aristocracy as insignificant. In order to deliver the poor conditioned soul, they accepted loin cloths, treating themselves as mendicants. But they are always merged in the ecstatic ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna and bathe always and repeatedly in the waves of that ocean. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis were always engaged in intensely worshipping Radha Krishna in the transcendental land of Vrindavan, where there are beautiful trees full of fruits and flowers, which have under their roots all valuable jewels. The Goswamis are perfectly competent to bestow upon the living entities the greatest boon of the goals of life. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis were engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord and bowing down in his scheduled measurement. In this way, they utilized their valuable lives, and in executing these devotional activities, they conquered over eating and sleeping, and were always meek and humble, enchanted by remembering the transcendental qualities of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis who were sometimes on the bank of Radha Kund lake or the source of the Yamuna and sometimes in Vamsivat. There they appeared just like madmen in full ecstasy of love for Krishna, exhibiting different transcendental symptoms in their bodies, and they were merged in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. O Queen of Vrindavan, Radha Rani, O Lalita, O son of Nand Maharaj, where are you all now? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the trees of the bank of Yamuna? The six Goswamis chanted very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan, shouting. These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis. Sri Six Sat Goswami Ashtakam ki Jai, Srinivas Acharya ki Jai. Thank you so much. And so we'll next we will read the another beautiful prayer is Dasa Avatar Strot. Dasa Avatar Strot is the song given by Jayadev Goswami. And in the preface, I think he gives this, is, especially the glorifying the 10 incarnation of Lord Krishna, and he gives the description. And so, actually, in the Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri, uh, I think he has a special cloth where they write this song and then they put in the heart of Lord Jagannath, if I remember correctly. So it's a very beautiful song where it goes into the in a very like just 2 to 3 line the main qualities and the incarnation of the Lord. So let's read. Let's sing together. Maybe you might have to muted behind the muted mic. Okay. प्रलयपयोधिजले धृतवानसि वेदम् विहितवहेत्रचरित्रमखेदम् केशवधृतामीन शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे क्षितिरिह विपुलतरे तिष्ठति तव पृष्ठे धरणिधरन किनचक्रगरिष्ठे केशवधृता कुर्म शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे वसति दशन शिखरे धरणी तव लग्ना शशिनिकलंक कलेवनिमग्ना केशवधृता शुकर रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तब कर कमल वरे नखमद्भुत श्रृंगार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपु तनुभृंगा केशवधृता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे छलयसि विक्रमणे बले अद्भुत वामन पदनख निरजनिता जन पावन केशवधृता वामन रूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे। क्षत्रिय रुधिरमयि जगदपगत पापम् स्नपयसि पयसि शमितभवतापम् केशवधृता भृगुपतिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। वितरसि दिक्षुरणे दिक्पति कमनीयम् दशमुखमौलिबलं रमणीयम् केशवधृता रामशरीरा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। वह शिवपुषि विशदे वसनं जलदाभम् हलहति भीतिमिलिता यमुनाभम् केशवधृता हलधर रूपा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। इन्दसि यज्ञविधेरः श्रुतिजातम् सदय हृदय दर्शितापसुघातम् केशवधृता बुद्ध शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। लेच्छनि वहनि धनि कलयसि करवालम् धूमकेतुमिव किमपि करालम् केशवधृता कल्की शरीरा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। श्री जयदेव कवेरिदमुदितमुदारम् शृणु सुखदं शुभदं भवसारम् केशवधृता दशविधरूपा जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। जय जगदीश हरे। वेदानुदारते जगन्ति वहते भूगोलमुद्बिभ्रते दैत्यं धारयते बलिच्छलयते छत्राक्षयं कुर्वते पौलस्त्यं जयते हलं कलयते कारुण्यमातन्वते म्लेच्छान्मूर्छयते दशकृतिकृते कृष्णाय तुभ्यं नमः। म्लेच्छान्मूर्छयते दशकृतिकृते कृष्णाय तुभ्यं नमः। म्लेच्छान्मूर्छयते दशकृतिकृते कृष्णाय तुभ्यं नमः। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. I think I'm not able to find the tune, but yeah, we'll making mistakes. So maybe I'll just sing simple, and then maybe we'll start with the.
You
Yeah,
sang well, Prabhu.
yeah, thank you, Prabhu. And so we will yeah. So this is the Pradha. So we'll start with the prayers to remember our predecessors Acharya and seek their blessings before we start our journey of Bhagavad Gita. ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Wait for the prayers to appear in the Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकम् वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये तप्त वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः निताय नामिने छे नामेर हाटे श्रद्धामूल्ये नाम दीते छे रे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे गम करन्ति वाचालं पंगुलं गायते गिरिं श्री यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतमम् Hare Krishna. I welcome everyone who joined online for this wonderful and most important discussion of Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is considered the manual of human being. Like how whenever we go and buy any appliance, suppose fridge, anything, there is a manual comes, and by reading manuals we can more understand that how to operate. Or nowadays instead of manual, maybe you search on the YouTube that how to operate this thing, but it needs some instructions. Similarly, for this human form, when we have got the Bhagavad Gita is the important manual, and which gives very clear and precise and instructions in to understand first of all who we are, and what is my relationship with the God, and what is how to achieve that, um, what I can do to reestablish the relationships. And so in that, today we will pick in chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, which is Prakriti Purus. Is a chapter 13 on nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. So before starting, maybe we can do the chat. Chat stands for chapter a day. So let's do our chat. If you are first time hearing, this is like the one of the very recommended process to read at least one chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day, either in Sanskrit or English or both. And many many people all over the world do this practice, and then they can feel that Lord Krishna's presence in their daily life in the form of Bhagavad Gita. So let's read the chat. So I will share my screen, and then we can, if anyone wants to read, we can all take turn. So I'll do first 5, and then after that, if anyone wants to read, please you can go ahead. Nature, the enjoyer, and the consciousness. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, nature, Purush, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of knowledge, and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, ocean of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." O Shan of Bharat, you should understand that I am also knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Now, please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activities is, and what his influences are. The knowledge of the field of activities, a little bit, increase the fun. The knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of the activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is specially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect. Haribol. So anyone will like to read next 5?
I can read Prabhu from 6, maybe next 2. I can read.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Text 6 to 7. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, all these are considered, in summary, to be the field of activities and its interactions. Texts 8 to 12. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance.
Thank you so much, Ashray Madhav. Anyone would like to go?
I can read, Prabhu. Next 5.
Oh, Haribol. Bal Mukund Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept my obeisances, Prabhu. I shall now explain the knowable knowing which you will taste the eternal Brahman, the spirit, the beginningless and the subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of the material world. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, head and face, and he has ears everywhere. In this way, Supersoul exists, pervading everything. The Supersoul is the original source of all senses, yet is without senses. He is unattached, although he is maintainer of all living beings. He transcends the modes of the nature, and at the same time, he is the master of all the modes of material nature.
Yes, Prabhu, you can go 2 more.
Okay. The Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings. The moving and non-moving. Because it's subtle, it's beyond the power of material senses to see or to know. Although far, far away, he is also near to all. Although the Supersoul appears to be divided among all beings, he is never divided. He is situated as one. Although he is a maintainer of every living entity, it is to be understood he devours and develops all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mukund Prabhu. So nice to see you from the temple. This missing temple. So thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes, anyone would like to read if they are able to?
Hare Krishna Babaji, Nanda Pranam. I can read, Babu.
Jai Koladi Pran Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances.
Hare Krishna Babaji. Text 18. He is the source of light in all luminous objects. He is beyond the darkness of matter and is unmanifested. He is knowledge, he is the object of knowledge, and he is the goal of knowledge. He is situated in everyone's heart. Thus, the field of activities, the body, knowledge, and the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. Nature is said to be the cause of all material causes and effects, whereas the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various species.
Jai. Thank you, Kuladip Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Anyone else would like to mention the call and want to read? It's a chance. No, then I can go. Text 23. Yet in this body, there is another, a transcendental enjoyer, who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. One who understands this philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, and interaction of the modes of nature is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. Some pursue the super soul within themselves through meditation, others through the cultivation of knowledge, and still others through working without fruitive desires. Again, there are those who, although not conversant in spiritual knowledge, begin to worship the Supreme Person upon hearing about him from others. Because of their tendency to hear from authorities, they also transcend the path of birth and death. O Chief of the Bharatas, know that whatever you see in existence, both the moving and non-moving, is only a combination of the field of activities and the knower of the field. So, next, Ashram.
I can read Prabhu. Okay. One who, text 28, one who sees the super soul accompanying the individual soul in all bodies, and who understands that neither the soul nor the super soul within the destructible body is ever destroyed, actually sees. Text 29. One who sees the super soul equally present everywhere in every living being does not degrade himself by his mind. Thus he approaches the transcendental destination. Text 30. One who can see that all activities are performed by the body, which is created of material nature, and sees that the self does nothing, actually sees. Text 31. When a sensible man ceases to see different identities due to different material bodies, and he sees how beings are expanded everywhere, he attains to the Brahman conception. Those with the vision of eternity can see that the imperishable soul is transcendental, eternal, and beyond the modes of nature. Despite contact with the material body, O Arjun, the soul neither does anything nor is entangled.
Jai.
Yeah.
Next, last three in one. Maybe Kuladip Prabhu, you can.
Okay, Babaji. The sky, due to its subtle nature, doesn't mix with anything, although it is all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision doesn't mix with the body, though situated in that body. O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. Those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Yeah, it's such a nectarian reading of Bhagavad Gita. Just there are so many technical terms, but it just gives us much more clue rather than clueless in this material world to get lost. That how there's a difference between material body and the knower of the body, and it's not that everything just gets annihilated at the time of death and nothing else remains, or and so many other misconceptions that is prevalent. So definitely Krishna has been very philosophical description. Like we see that chapter 1 to 6, Krishna explained that how through doing karma eventually we can approach to bhakti and attain Krishna. And then middle sixth chapter directly he explained about the bhakti yoga, the direct process of Krishna consciousness. And in the last sixth chapter, that is from chapter 13 to 18, Lord Krishna basically tells that how through Gyan Yoga, the Gyan is not like ordinary Gyan, but it's transcendental knowledge. How we can achieve ultimately to the Krishna. And so this is the beginning of the 13th chapter, and there is Krishna very analytically goes how the body and the soul and the super soul and the nature and all these elements. So it's very nice to just at least understand the basics of Bhagavad Gita. So that's why I thought to discuss about this topic. And so before we proceed, we till now we had sang two songs from the Sat Goswami Ashtakam and then the Saudar Srot and this chat. If anyone has anything that they like to share or something that caught their attention, we'll like to invite to please share with all the audience here, if they like to share anything from the last three presentations.
So I was just thinking about the sacrifices, the Goswamis did. Otherwise, this nectarian, actually, the Srila Prabhupada isn't that parampara only, right? So because of their sacrifice, then Srila Prabhupada, of course, sacrifice of Srila Prabhupada and his direct disciples, we are able to get this knowledge. Otherwise, we would have been in the same confusion like many other people who don't want to avail this knowledge. It is so simple. Krishna has so clearly, said everything, but people still tend to, misinterpret Bhagavad Gita for their own ends. So their sacrifices, they were all aristocratic people, right? All this Dabir Khalsa and, Sakar Malik, like they're all aristocratic people, right? I mean, all this Jiva Goswami, he was so knowledgeable, but they had sacrificed everything to, capture all this, going through the scriptures, getting all that knowledge so that, we can benefit from it. That's what is that Sad Goswami Ashtakam, that is what I was thinking.
Jai, ya taktva turnamashesha mandalapati sreni sada tuchchavat bhutva dina ganesha ko karunaya kopina kantarhitam. So that was exactly what you said. They left the aristocracy, and I sometimes myself think that even living in a small engineering job is so tough for me. If someone asks me that, okay, are you, are you ready to live and dedicate your life? Maybe not. I'm not at that stage. Again, we understand, bhakti yoga is like you can still practice everything, but definitely there are many personalities in our movement, those who soared by renunciation. So we need every example in this society, those who are like responsible householder, those who are extreme renunciates, and then that's kind of that's what bring the wholesome experience. Like we can get inspiration by their even though suppose we have little less what you can say not the, what example can I give? Like suppose we have not the best brand of the car or best brand of the watch, still we can be happy that okay, we have something. There's some people to those who doesn't need anything and they're still happy. So it definitely gives more inspiration. Just something to add in your point. Thank you, Ashram Madhaprabhu. Anything else we like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to, because I did not hear your singing, Prabhu. I just joined when you started doing Mangalacharan. So regarding this chapter, this is one of the very convoluted chapters in Bhagavad Gita, and people can easily misinterpret a lot of verses in impersonal way. So that's why while studying this chapter, especially like some of these chapters, we need to understand it through the purport or through the commentaries of our acharyas. Otherwise, some verses are really misleading. Even Advaita Acharya Prabhu, he did not understand that, that 14 verse, right? 14 Sarvata Pani Padantat Sarvata Akshishirumukam. So it actually gives an idea that how important it is to study in the through the eyes of the acharyas, how they are actually seeing these verses, how they are all connecting it to the supreme absolute, personal form Krishna. So that's very important, and that's very, I think for any sadhaka bhakta to understand this philosophy, it should not be like done through their own understanding, or anyone who is not a devotee, maybe very scholar, as a Sanskrit scholar or very learned person, but not a devotee, then it will be misleading completely. Yeah, that's my understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a nice. Even I also read some verses like he has hands everywhere, his eyes everywhere. Then you can, as you to so correctly pointed out, you might just think that, oh, that means Krishna has his own form. He's like everywhere. That means impersonal. So that is very nice point you brought, and how important is to understand it from the Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And that's what, like, even we see in the verse number 4, where Lord Krishna himself says that is written, is followed by many sages, and also been written in the. Let me just bring that verse number 4. Now, please, okay, let me share my screen. Now, please hear my brief description of this field of no, not C, sorry. Yeah, sorry, 5th, my bad. 5th, that knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is specially presented in Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning to cause and effect. So though Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and from him all the knowledge comes, still he's like kind of taking a position of a guru. And then he's saying that there is a Shastra and Sadhus, like there are different sages that represent the Sadhus, and there are various Vedic writings that are the Shastra, and he tells that how we should triangulate our knowledge through these three, like what very excellently pointed out by Kuladip Prabhu, that it should not be just, I mean, just by Sanskrit scholars, if we can read, understand Bhagavad Gita. Bhaktya mam avijanati yavan yaschashmi tatvata tato mam tatvato gyatva visudeta danantaram. Like how only by the devotional service we can understand the Bhagavad Gita and its secret. So thank you, Kuladip Prabhu, for bringing that. Great. Anyone else would like to share any other things before we begin? I just want to hear from you, if it's possible.
I checked online, Prabhu. There are no comments there. I did not see any. So
Thank you, Prabhu.
just wanted to let you know.
Okay. So yeah, so let's go for the chapter. We will maybe let me show something. I'm sure many of the missing. So I. So yeah, first of all, we like to seek blessings of Srila Prabhupada, who is the founder Acharya of ISKCON, and then because of his blessings, we are able to understand the Bhagavad Gita. He took the painlessly, following the footstep of Sat Goswami, as Ashram Madha Prabhu was pointing. He sacrificed so much of his nights, his time to translate this Bhagavad Gita so that we all can accurately understand the principles of Bhakti Yoga and perfect our life. And this is the most beautiful and merciful deity of Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Mahaprabhu from our ISV, who are presiding deities here. And yeah, since this is an online program, I thought to have some today's picture to share with all of you. Okay, their blessings is Sri Narsimhadev, Sri Lakshmi Narsimhadev. And yes, so this is the Bhagavad Gita, which is, you can see that is Arjuna's chariot was Krishna, and then he was guiding him on the principles of Bhakti Yoga. So there are 5 topics of Bhagavad Gita that are there. So let me ask, what are the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita that is that Bhagavad Gita discuss? The main 5 topics. Just the hint, like this chapter has 3 of them at least, like direct. so this chapter, I saw that there are 3 directly are mentioned. So, and I'm sure there are 2 more there, but I'm just telling that at least 3 are directly there. So
yeah, it's Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Karma, and Kala, right? These are the 5 subject matter.
yeah, Kuladip Prabhu. So Isvara means Supreme Lord. can see that Supreme Lord, Jiva, the soul, the Prakriti or material nature, and there are two Kal and Karma. The Kal is the eternal time and the Karma is the material activities. So we can see that in this chapter, Krishna directly describe about Iswara, Jiva and Prakriti. And so let's read from the chapter itself. Text 1 to 2. Arjuna Vacha Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Chetram Chetragya Eva Cha Etad Veditum Ikshami Jnanam Geyam Cha Keshava Shri Bhagavan Vacha Idam Sariram Kaunteya Chetram Ityabhidhiyate Etadyo Veti Tam Prahu Chetragya Iti Tadvidha. So Arjuna is asking in this chapter basically 6 questions, and then Lord Krishna is going to give answer to the 6 questions. So it's such an important question for all of us, and to understand the 6 question and the answer that Lord Krishna says. So Arjuna said, translation, Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Krishna, I wish to know about Prakriti, that means nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, and the field, and the knower of the field, and of the knowledge and the object of knowledge." The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field." So we can see that he is asked 6 questions, and Lord Krishna started answering first from the third question that he asked, that what is the field and who is the knower of the field. So he said that this body is the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So now let's see the purport. Anyone will like to read the paragraph?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, please. Thank you, Prabhu.
Arjuna was inquisitive about Prakriti, nature, Purusha, the enjoyer, Kshetra, the field, Kshetragya, its knower, and knowledge and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all these, Krishna said that this body is called the field, and that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. This body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord it over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. That field of activity is the body. And what is the body? The body is made of senses. The conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification, and according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification, is offered a body or field of activity. Therefore, the body is called Kshetra, or the field of activity for the conditioned soul. Now, the person who should not identify himself with the body is called Kshetragya, the knower of the field. It is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower, the body and the knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age, he undergoes so many changes of body and yet is still one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between the knower of the field of activities and the actual field of activities. A living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning, Dehinoshmin, that the living entity is within the body, and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood, and from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age, and the person who owns the body knows that the body is changing. The owner is distinctly Kshetragya. Sometimes we think, I am happy, I am a man, I am a woman, I am a dog, I am a cat. These are the bodily designations of the knower. But the knower is different from the body. Although we may use many articles, our clothes, etc., we know that we are different from the things used. Similarly, we also understand by a little contemplation that we are different from the body. I or you or anyone else who owns the body is called Kshetragya, the knower of the field of activities, and the body is called Kshetra, the field of activities itself.
Yeah, thank you. Next paragraph. Anyone else would like to read?
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yes, thank you.
In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the knower of the body, the living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. In the middle 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regard to devotional service are described. The superior position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the subordinate position of the individual soul are definitely defined in these chapters. The living entities are subordinate under all circumstances, but in their forgetfulness, they are suffering. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities as the distressed, those in want of money, the inquisitive, and those in search of knowledge. That is also described. Now, starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes into contact with material nature and how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through the different methods of fruitive activities, cultivation of knowledge, and the discharge of devotional service are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, this somehow becomes related. This
Sorry, this also.
this also is explained. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's my bad.
Thank
So
you.
perfect. Wow. What a purport. I'm just thinking that just if someone understand this, it's like a winning the lottery, and it's such a amazing. There's just this one purport of Prabhupada. Now, every purport is hate, super hate, but this one you can see that there's the basics of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is very simply directly answering when from the field, because that what is the field. And Prabhupada says in the purport that how according to our desire to enjoy the material nature, we get different field of activities. Sometimes someone gets the body of animals, someone maybe body of a tree, or some maybe human being, or whatever. This all according to our desire. Um, and then uh, so that is the field. And then he told that, but you as a soul is different from this knower. And that's what even in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is so much elaborately described about the soul and the qualities of the soul. If someone can say what are the qualities of the soul and things that Krishna is describing in the second chapter.
Yeah. He cannot be killed, he cannot be burnt, he cannot be dried up,
Right.
he cannot become wet, he cannot be cut. He
Right.
is all pervasive in the body.
Yeah, he is all pervasive. And then um, he doesn't die. Like the soul doesn't die when the body die. Like soul is eternal. Sometimes we just think that, okay, this as soon as this body ends, that's what is the field of activity that we have got. And as soon as that end, that means that the end of the ourself. But we are so different. And Prabhupada in other places give this very famous analogy of a car and a driver. Like where the car can be compared to as a body of our human being, and then the driver who drives is the car will not drive just by its own. Like if you just see like outside car is there is some person who's driving the car. Similarly, this body is compared to the car, and then the soul who is residing in the body is compared to the soul. Sorry, the driver is compared to the soul whose presence actually makes this body alive. Without the presence of the soul, is actually the body is just dead. It's just a field of activity. But because of the presence of the soul, this body is having the effulgence, or is values there. Um, like sometime even like and its soul's presence can be like there's so many ways that we can present the uh, we can um, we can prove the presence of the soul. And there are some of like very commonsensical we can understand, like suppose some near relatives died, and we are seeing in the front of us that the body is still there, and we say that everyone will exclaiming, oh, he has gone, or she has gone, or Mr. X is gone. But if we see in the front of us, the body is still there. But what has gone? The element that has gone is the soul, that one who has enlightened the whole body till now. And then even this purport Prabhupada says that like we grow from childhood to young, and then from young to old. So we are all our body is constantly changing, but as a soul the inside is the same. It's not that we we think that, oh, I am different when I was childhood and now I'm different. I am inside is the same person, it's just the body is changing. And in other places Even in this purport, Prabhupada says like Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yaunam jara tatha dehantar prapti dhirasatra namuyati. How a living soul is constantly Dehinosmin, he goes from one body, Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram, he takes from the youth to old, from boy to youthhood, then to the old age. And similarly at the death he passing to the different body, but the sober person doesn't get bewildered by this change because he knows that what is his purpose. And so that is why this all knowledge is there, that Krishna is saying. So so that is the thing. And then maybe to just illustrate, maybe I'll share some small slide. That this one we saw that how the five elements, and then this is the very famous picture where we can see that how the soul is passing through the different bodies, like from starting from the baby, and then it goes, essentially we are the same, but it's this body, and then one day die, and then you can see this another cycle is starting behind. So so a sober person understand that, okay, oh wow, this is just a one life amongst many lives that I'm going through. And what is there, or even this picture very vividly says it's just a human being, but it can be also in any species of life. There are 8.4 million species of life, and then according to our activities, like how Krishna described in the 8th chapter, Antakale chamameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati tejandi hamsayati paramam gati yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tejatyante kalevaram tam tameveti konteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Like how what we remember at the time of death, we immediately gets that body, and that is determined by what is our whole life we had been practicing, what is our desires, what are our aspirations. And the bhakti yoga is the method to purify that aspiration, to purify that desires, so that we desire that we just serve Krishna and his devotees. So when we purify our desire, that verse says like in the Rishikena Hishikesa Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate, that when we just desire to serve Krishna through the purified senses, that is bhakti. So this is the thing that Prabhupada was saying, that how we have the soul, we have actually two bodies. One is the gross body and another is subtle body. And then there is a soul that is much more subtle than these bodies. So the gross body is made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. In the next few verses, we will see how the Panchamahabhut it will say, and the subtle body is made of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So the gross body is that what we are able to see. Everyone can see by outside, but the subtle body, mind, intelligence, ego is subtle, but they are also part of the body that we have got. And the soul is much more subtler, which is the eternal. That has the Sat, Chit, and Ananda feature. Sat is the eternity, Chit is knowledge, and the bliss is Anand. And but somehow, as Prabhupada was telling in the purport, the soul has entrapped in this body, as you can see, and then according to the body, but the soul is independent. It's just like it's now in this body, it can go to another body, and like this, like a driver who's driving this car, he can drive another car. He can drive another car according to his desire. Similarly, the soul can just take this body, another body. So that is the thing. And then he was also telling in this how the senses, like there are different senses. Through that, ear, eyes, nose, skin, tongue, we kind of get all the sensory inputs, and that goes into a storehouse of thoughts. That gets into the mind. Mind is chitta, where all the impressions or some scars are stored from not only this lifetime but from many lifetimes. And that's why we have impression, very subtle impression, or sometimes very gross impressions, that kinds of dragged us to do the good thing or the bad thing. Like as for some people, it's very natural to just practice Krishna consciousness, because of they have been, there is a nice, they have got the the samskars are very imprinted, that is much more bhakti samskars from the past lives. And some, those who doesn't have, but still they can purify this in this life through by giving the positive samskars. And the intelligence which is in the behind, which is the decision maker, which is constantly saying that when the senses get the input and the mind filters them, the intelligence constantly telling what is right, what is wrong, based on how we have fortified our mind, fortify our intelligence. And the Bhagavad Gita is, that's why we are reading Bhagavad Gita. Someone may ask this question. So basically the Bhagavad Gita is making our intelligence strong, so that we take the right decisions. We take the right decisions that is approved by the Shastra, that is approved by the Guru, that is approved by the Sadhu. So we are fortifying our intelligence. Like sometimes people may just say that, and hey, what is the use of reading all this? Like I'm already everything is destined in my life. Why I had to why I had to read all these things? So then Vedanta Sutra says that okay, if it is destined, then why this so many books has been written? If the living entity doesn't have that capability, that it can't change its course of action by understanding it, his own position, and and understanding in like how this in 13th chapter so vividly describe Krishna, so vividly describe that who we are, and we are soul, we are just entrapped in this body field of activities. And then he will say in the few verses next that okay, what are the process of getting out of this? And he says that it starts from the humility, amanitva madam hitva mahimsa chanti rajavam. And then he described 20 qualities. Out of this he told that 16, the unalloyed devotion to Krishna is the main principal center around which all the other qualities can be developed. So this is the thing. And then this is another very famous picture where how the senses are compared to the different horses, and they are like they can drag us in different directions, and if they don't have in control, uh, I I came to, I know that some like one person who is kind of in very working in famous company. He did his graduation from like one of the most prestigious college from India, and he has like a not tens, maybe tens of patents and everything. But then he just got into some his senses and mind, and then he just entered the bar. And sometime we think that, oh my goodness, is like from the most prestigious institute which we want to hear, which we want to go, and we want to have like tens of patents, right? Koladi plant bro, you can concur, right? That like we see that people as a role model, that how many patents they have in the working, and then they are like in the big post, and then but when we find that they can't control their senses, and they are behind the bar for domestic violence or for abusing or for anything for their family member, then we can see that this all knowledge is useless in one sense. That doesn't even gives the basic thing, because their senses are not controlled, their mind is not controlled, and they are not understood this basic philosophy of that how the senses is just giving inputs left and right, and then it's filtering through the mind, and the intelligence has to be make it strong. um, Not that we have to just come into the impressions of all these senses and mind. And you can see in this picture like soul, how scary soul is because he has not strengthened his intelligence, so soul can be just devoured by the all these things if it is not properly fortified intelligence. And then in the purport, Krishna was also saying, so in Prabhupada was mentioning that how we all have the soul, and then you can see that everyone has soul, like there are different people, that everyone has their soul, but then Krishna as a super soul is in everyone's body. And like I as a soul can only know my body, but Krishna as a super soul can know everyone's body. He's in Paramatma sitting in everyone's heart, whether it's even okay, there's another picture which says like even in the animal's heart, not only just human, but in all the bodies he is existing as a super soul. And this is a very famous word that comes, the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wandering of all living entity who are seated as on machine made of material energy. So yantra rudhani maya. So yantra, he compared the yantra, and as I was telling yantra, that even the car analogy is so appropriate, that to understand this yantra, like this body is just a yantra or machine, and then is in which the soul is there, but where super is and the super soul is guiding through his journey through different body. So we are very so lucky that we have this knowledge and we can practice this knowledge. As I was saying that in the future verses, Krishna will go more deeper into the how we can practice this knowledge of knowing the body. Body. So in this verse, he says that body, as we discussed, right? This body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So we just kind of described the in summary. So let's go to the next verse. O Shine of Bharata, that is text 3. You should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So he says that how is there is a knower in all bodies, that I am also in the knower in all bodies. It's not that the last picture I was saying, that how we know our body like as a soul, but there's also super soul. He is present in everyone's heart, and he also knows everything. It's not that we are left just okay. Krishna has just left us in this material world without any guidance or without any direction. But it is just like many people ask this question, right? Hey, what you're asking, if Krishna, why we have to practice this spiritual science or anything? If Krishna is even like Krishna is always listening, whether you are a devotee or non-devotee or anything, right? Then what is the use of when we say, right, Krishna is especially hears the devotee's voice. So what about non-devotees? He doesn't hear that because he's still sitting in their heart as well, right? So why we say that he's just hearing about devotees thing and not non-devotees thing? Can anyone say that?
So it's just like, a kid from his street calling a random person as daddy or father, or seeking some attention. He may not give attention, but when his own kid calls upon, then they immediately gives that he will give attention to that kid. You see, Mandal is calling. Yeah, anyways, the point is that is no relationship, or that
Wow.
that relationship is not established. So it's not easy, to get reciprocation from the Lord. Yeah, that's
That
my
is, wow, that's the best answer. What a nice example you give, that they said no relationship has been established. So until that relationship is there, even in our life, right? We can, in any relationships, we can go on for days, years, decades, and we may not have a meaningful conversation in the relationships. If we are not develop that relationships, it might be just in one home living so many bodies together, but they're not develop that relationship. But that's what is the same way, that soul and this super soul living in everyone's body, and until we develop that relationship, though we may be like for a whole life staying together in the same body, but we may not able to get that reciprocation or hear him, like how Koladi Pranpu was saying. So exactly, Prabhu, thank you. So that is the thing. So he said that he's also knower in all bodies, and to understand this body and its knower. So we saw the body, how this is made of 5 gross and 3 subtle. And so understand this body and its knower. So what are the 2 knowers we know? One is what are the 2 knowers?
Soul and super soul.
Correct. So soul and super soul. So there are two knowers, soul and super soul. So as Krishna is saying that when we understand this, all 3, the body, the kshetra, and knower of bodies, the soul and super soul, and also in the later part, like the prakriti, how this all getting interacted. Like we saw that how there's a triangle, you can see there is a body, and then there is a soul, super soul, and then there is a nature. How these all 3 are integrated, how they are getting kind of interacting with each other. That's what this whole chapter describes. And once we understand this very clearly, that how the soul, super soul, nature, and the body, these all are different. There's some purpose for all this, and then how we can take the best bargain of the body that we are in currently. So let's read. While discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and the super soul, we shall find 3 different topic of study. So here Prabhupada says that 3 different topic of study, they are the Lord, the living entity, and matter. right? This matter is filled, and the Lord and living entity are the knower of the field. In every field of activities, that means in every body, there are two souls, the individual souls and the super soul. Because the super soul is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, Krishna says, I am also the knower, but I am not the individual knower of the body. I am the super knower. So this is like such a wonderful, nice supernova. I am the supernova. Krishna is the supernova. I am present in every body as the Paramatma or super soul. One who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely. So one who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the fields very minutely in terms of the Bhagavad Gita can attain to knowledge. And that's why I'm telling this knowledge is not the ordinary knowledge. This is transcendental knowledge, and this is the real knowledge, as we will see in the perfect. The Lord says, I am the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individuals may be knower of his own body, but he's not in knowledge of the other bodies. Like in this slides we saw, right, that we might be knowing of our bodies, but we may not knowing about the other bodies, like everything. But Krishna as a soul, because he was saying that as a super soul is a plenary expansion of Krishna, so he knows in every body what is going on. That's why he's super knower. Knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. So not just human being, he also knows all the species. Then Prabhupada gives example, a citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all the bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. So we have to understand this body is like we don't own this body. This is actually the Supreme Lord who is the proprietor of this body. Sometimes people take the many times they take the shelter of suiciding their life because they think that they are the owning the body. But there is it's not just we own the body. We are just like it's the Krishna who is the owning this body. We are just for temporary time he's here, and we think that we can do anything with this body. So that doesn't make any sense. And also in the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, it much more in the section of the in the Nal Kuber and Manigru, very vividly it goes like, and it asks that, okay, the whom does the body belongs to? Does it belong to the fire when it dies? When does it belong to the mud, the earth from it came, or it belongs to jackal who eats after that? Whom does this body belong? So it's, but here we can see that Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. The body consists of the senses. Okay, so that we saw, right? The body consists of the senses in the previous slides that I was showing. The Supreme Lord is Rishikesh, which means the controller of the senses. He is the original controller of the senses, just as the king is the original controller of all the activities of the state. The citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord says, I am also the knower. This means that he is the super knower. The individual soul knows only his particular body. In the Vedic literature, it is stated as follows: Kshetrani hi sarirani bijam chapi subha subhe tani veti sa yogatma tata kshetragya uchyate. This body is called the Kshetra, and within it dwells the honor of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the honor of the body. Therefore, he is called the knower of all fields. The distinction between the field of activities, the knower of activities, and the supreme knower of activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the super soul is known in terms of the Vedic literature as Gyan. Like it's saying that how the body, soul, super soul, we can know in terms of Gyan, what is their constituent. That is the opinion of Krishna. To understand both the soul and the super soul as one, yet distinct, is knowledge. To understand both the soul and the super soul as one, yet distinct, is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activities is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of Prakriti, Purusha, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower who dominates or controls nature and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. So it's not that we are saying that Prakriti or the Purus, the enjoyer of nature, and the Ishvara, the knower who dominates or control natures and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. This material world, which is the field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity. And above them both is supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. As stated in Vedic language in the Svetasvatar Upanishad, Bhokta Bhogyam Preri Preritaram cha matva sarvam proktam trividham brahmam etad. There are three Brahman conception. Prakriti is Brahman as the field of activities, and the Jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman and is trying to control material nature. And the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the factual controller. So in this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible and the other is infallible. One is superior and other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be one and the same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who states here very clearly, I am also the knower in the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies and there are different honors of the bodies, because each individual soul has his individual capacity for lording it over material nature. There are different bodies, but the Supreme also is present in them as the controller. The word cha is significant for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan. Krishna is the super soul present in each and every body apart from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that real knowledge is to know the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer. So the real knowledge is to know the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer. So yes, as Kuladip Prabhu was saying that this chapter can be also be very much interpreted in materialistic in impersonal way, and that's what Prabhupada was trying to, like in the starting of the purport itself, trying to slash that thing. No, there is a difference between the painter and the aisle. You can't say all three are same. So here also he gives the snake and the example of the rope, that they both are not the same, and that is not the knowledge, that considering both of them to be same. So he's saying that. So that's why the Achinta Bheda Bheda Tattva of the philosophy of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that he propounded the simultaneous one and the difference. That though the soul is the part of Krishna, so they have the same quality, but soul is very minute in quantity than the super soul or the Krishna. So that is the like the first like 3 verses of this chapter we read. So I'll stop here for anything that anyone like to reflect, or before because we have just 10 minutes remaining. So I just want to hear if anyone has any reflection, question, or anything that we can further dig in. Instead of yeah, maybe I will, instead of going to the new verse, I'll just stop here.
Yeah, I can reflect on the last sentence, Prabhu, that Krishna is Srila Prabhupada is mentioning in the commentary, that we need to understand the super soul. We need to understand the field of activities, and also we need to understand what is the relationship with the super soul. Like we are a finite enjoyer, or so-called little bit of experience in this material world we can have, but ultimately, as you mentioned in that Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam verse, that our senses are meant to actually serve Krishna for his enjoyment. That is the ultimate relationship. So as long as we are not established in that relationship, we need to dig down, where we are situated, and how can we actually go to that platform where we can serve Krishna. So that's why Bhagavad Gita gives us a very foundational Sambandha Gyan, the relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, and our position, his position, and the position of the material nature in between both of us. So I think this chapter also kind of a summary of Bhagavad Gita also, because it speaks about the 3 major components, as you mentioned, that Ishvara, Jiva, and Prakriti. So it's a very good thing to remember or study to establish that Sambandha Gyan, or the relationship, the knowledge about the relationship.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, and for bringing that into the point. Again, I was just today hearing Srila Prabhupada, and he was saying that how like bhakti is means that like we are meant to serve Krishna, we are meant to give him pleasure, not for our own pleasure, and that is the greatest mystery. Like most of the time, like when Swami was saying that most of the time we think that the more and by serve, like how I can become happy by making myself like having all the facility, all the enjoyment, but is opposite. The more happiness we get by serving others selflessly, the and the epitome of, or like the culmination is that serving Krishna directly. That because and when we serve Krishna, then everything else is satisfied. Like a Prabhupada gives the analogy of a tree. um, if we pour the water in the tree's root, it is actually satisfy the whole tree, not just if we try to individually water just the twigs or root twigs or the branches, it will not satisfy. But when we satisfy the but when we water the roots of the tree, it satisfy the whole tree. Similarly, when we serve Krishna, who's the fountainhead, like this chapter is kind of bringing to that conclusion, like how super soul, or in another form is Krishna's form is super soul. He's the fountainhead, and when we serve him, we all become satisfied. So that is very nice. Thank you, Voladeep Pranto. It was nice recollection.
Krishna.
Yes, bro.
So I was just reflecting on this, the 12th chapter, right? 12th chapter, Krishna says, Arjuna asks like which path is better, right? To do bhakti or to do the impersonalism. So in bhakti, then 12th chapter, he elaborates the bhakti, right? The different grades of bhakti, the complete absorption, and you can work for him and all that, right? Following the Vedic bhakti.
Right.
Then in this chapter, Arjuna is just wants to make sure, like the other path, how complicated that is, right? And this is the chapter about this Brahma Sutra, where his focus is that impersonal concept of Krishna, which is Brahman. Right? So Purusha, Prakriti, and then this particular chapter, because it is many of the things are coming from Brahma Sutra, which has been like interpreted by Mayavadis and the Sankaracharya's interpretation, right? The Mayavadi interpretation. So the people can use this chapter to confuse the audience very well. But we are very fortunate to have and then Baldev Vidyabhushan. That is why in one of the places Prabhupada is writing about Baldev Vidyabhushan, because he wrote the Govinda Bhasya, right, which is the proper interpretation of the Brahma Sutra, because it was directly given by Krishna to him, right? So we are very fortunate actually to be in this path. I will tell you, there are people who has gone to that other path. They are confused, and they think that confusion is the truth. That confusion is the truth, and it's a very horrible thing actually. They are not able to get out of it. As a result, they think that confusion is the truth, and that is the happiness. Remaining in that confusion, which is very difficult to understand for us, because we are very fortunate that we have this knowledge from Srila Prabhupada and then from the previous acharyas. How can confusion be a source of bliss, right? Because Brahma Sutra is totally like that. I mean, it's someone is putting their point of view, and then someone is counter putting it. It's so much of argumentative, basically.
Yeah, such a nice point, Vaskramada Prabhu, that is clarity. That is the very, very much important, and that's what Prabhupada brings. How everything is in perspective of devotional service, and Bhagavad Gita as it is that's why it's written as it is.
As it is, yeah.
Thank you. That was fantastic. And then if anyone like to pinch, last we had just 1 minute more. If anyone like to share any last thoughts, otherwise we'll do just few minutes kirtan, and then we'll end the session today. It's approaching. Okay, so maybe we'll just do some 2 minutes kirtan. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Radha Madan Mohan, Radha Madan Mohan Raj. Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu, Jaya Mahaprabhu. Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha, Jaya Manita Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Hari Bol, Nita Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you so much, the esteemed devotees, for taking out your most valuable time for this Wednesday evening to join us for this very important discussion of Bhagavad Gita, where we learn from chapter 13, the how there are the three things: the Ishvara, the Ishwar, the Supreme Lord, the living entity, and the material nature. We just begin the chapter, but yeah, this. We can continue in the next sessions whenever it is. So I'll take. Please forgive me if anything was not appropriate. Uh, but and if anything good, it's all because of the blessings of my spiritual master and all the wonderful Vaishnavas like all of you. So I'll take leave and please accept my humble obeisances. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa patikānām कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय
Jai.
Bhagavan Prabhu ki jai.
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 श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय
Jai.
हरि बोल
Hari Hari Bol.
हरे कृष्ण
Dear devotees, we'll now close the session on the Wednesday. Hari Bol.
हरि बोल